Hello everyone, welcome back. So last time we discussed about research or designing research useful in daily life. So this time we're gonna talk about writing a research title. Okay, so when you are asked by your teacher to write a research title, don't be afraid about it. And when you are asked a lot of questions regarding your research title, um, don't get discouraged if you come at a dead end in which there's nothing to answer to your teacher. You know, that title, if you are really interested in that, you have to make a research, you have to make a background research about it. And so, if you are such a dead end, you just have to defend your title because your teacher might already know what's going to be the answer, but you're just being tested if you are into you know if you're really interested in pursuing your research. Yeah. So, and your title also, it doesn't mean that it's really going to be final, because later on you will realize that there might be changes that you will you know there might be changes that will happen in your research. So you just have to be flexible about it. So of course, in your competency, you need to write a research title at the end of this lesson. And then you are going to formulate clearly a statement of research problem. So our title will be anchored on the research problem. And then write a working research title. Why is it working research title? It is a working research title because as you are gonna work with your research, you will have a title that will serve as your guide. But as I've said earlier, it will never be as the absolute title for your research. But good if it would be like the title that you submitted at the end of your final work, it's still the same title, then good for you. But then always remember that it's going to be a working title, so that means it can be changed anytime. All right, so research problem. What is it all about? A research problem is a statement about a problem, an area of concern, a condition to be improved upon, a difficulty to be eliminated. So these descriptions of research problem would give you an idea what would you consider in your research. So, as we have discussed in our qualitative research 1, in the practical research 1, that the research in a cyclical form, it will start with a problem and ends with a problem. So now we're gonna start with a problem. So whatever it is that you when you look around, whatever it is that you have observed, a problem, then you focus on that. An area of concern, something that bothers you, then you focus on that. A condition to be improved upon, especially if people are complaining something about, like complaining to the government, complaining to your barangay officials, complaining about, the status of life or whatever it is that they're complaining about, then it is something that you can focus on. Like if there's a condition that needs improvement, then you can also do that. Then a difficulty to be eliminated. If there is no difficulty, it's not research. Next, a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, theory, or practice that points to the need for a meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. I want you to focus on two words at the beginning and the end of this paragraph. There's a troubling question and then investigation. So a research problem, it articulates the question or the trouble, the problem, so that it would point out to the need of you to understand and to have an deliberate investigation. Sometimes you will be asked during the defense, you will be asked why why do you come up with this research, or why do you research this? And then you will say, you know, you will say that it is because of for our grades, it is because it is a requirement. No, uh, please don't answer that, because that is just so, for us it's just pilosopo, you know, and you know that it's so pilosopo. Okay, next, research problem is the beginning act of research. If you don't have a problem, there's nothing to research, right? So you have to be, um, you really have to start looking for a problem. You know, this is the only subject I think in which you really have to find the problem and solve your own problem. Anyway, so these are the characteristics of a research problem. It is not just answerable by yes or no. Well, of course, it depends on how you're gonna phrase it. You phrase your question. Explanations and justifications regarding the true situation or observation are required, of course. So don't just, you know, give out there an open-ended question that will surely answer yes or no. Do the people complain about the staff that they received during the at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic? And you know, like that, answerable by yes or no. Okay. Next is it implies relationship between the variables of the study. Okay, this one. Since this is quantitative research, I want you to, when you are going to write your title, I want you to really put the variables. What are the things that you are going to research in your title? Okay, like for example, you want to study about the learning modality that are employed in different universities, different high schools, especially in DepEd. If you're gonna employ that, and then, you know, against what will be, what if it's learning modality that you want to study, and then what other variable are you going to measure? So learning modality and study habits, you know, that's an example. So what do you want to measure? Yeah, if it's correlation, if the learning modality is face to face, then the study habits will increase or decrease. If the um, modality is online, is the study habits increase or decrease? You know, things like that. The problem should be stated clearly. Okay, it should be stated clearly, of course. If you don't articulate your problem clearly, then nobody will hear you out, and you will be at a loss for, you know, whatever it is. A researchable problem must imply interpretation and analysis of data. Well, of course, since this is quantitative research, that by the title itself, I want you to understand that by reading at your title, the researchers or the readers will be able to, I mean, your title will be able to imply the kind of analysis of data, okay? Whether you're gonna employ the test of difference or the correlation in your research, okay? So you have to remember that. You have to, um, you know, you have to base it in number 3 about the variables, because once the you have the variables, because you will be asked whether you would measure the difference, you would measure the correlation there, or you would measure the relationship. Okay, it is what the researchers aim to answer later on as they go through the research endeavor. So if you have an articulated research problem, then of course you will have a clear answer on what you are looking for. Okay, so your research problem truly matters. Guidelines in formulating quantitative research problem and questions. Okay, formulate a research problem that is researchable, of course. That's why some of you will give me give me a title, but then we know already the answers, right? Like for example, somebody told me factors affecting the loss of uh, unemployment, like that. I mean, Yeah, and we know that in this pandemic we know already, right? So I think it's not researchable anymore. Then factors affecting drink, I mean, factors affect, um what is that, what was that, I forgot. Factors affecting uh drunk drunk, or effects of driving drunk, we know that already, right? Effects of driving drunk, pros and cons. But um it's not researchable anymore. You really have to think of a title that is researchable. Sometimes I will tell you we know already the answers, so we don't have to research that, because if your research problem is so obvious, I mean the answer is so obvious, we don't have to do research. It will just be a waste of our time. State your quantitative research problem clearly and concisely, not beyond 12 words. Not, I think this is for the title. I think this is for the title. Okay, but as for me, we're gonna talk about it later. Okay, during our consultation. But I think the 12 words would be for the title. But if we're gonna make it concise, 12 words. Okay, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we can do that. 12 words. Focus on general understanding of your research topic. Yes, you need to have a general understanding of your topic. So, it's just like when you say general, you can really say something when somebody asks you about your research, you can really say something about your research. Unlike when, general information in your research, like what is it all about? Who will be your respondents? Mm, the place of research, the location. So you can answer that question. Okay, so guidelines in formulating quantitative research problem and questions. Okay, so express your research problem and questions either in declarative or interrogative manner. Okay, but I prefer that you're gonna do that in a declarative manner. So there's an example, interrogative statement. What percentage of Manila universities consider the use of grammar textbooks as the most effective way to help college students attain communicative competence? So this example comes from the book Practical Research 2. I forgot the authors, but that was from the Rex Bookstore. And the other example is the declarative statement. The main objective of this study is to find out the percentage of Manila private universities considering the use of grammar textbooks as the most effective way to help college students attain communicative competence. So if you notice there, I because I prefer declarative statement, okay? So you can actually, but for the sake of consistency, I want you to focus on the declarative statement. The main objective of this study is to find out. So that's really the your research problem. The percentage of Manila private universities considering the use of grammar textbooks is the most effective way to help college students attain communicative competence. So what they're looking for is the percentage of Manila private university and the use of grammar textbooks and its effectivity. So the effective use of grammar textbooks for the communicative competence. So you see there's the variables there, okay? So the dependent variable that we're looking for here is the grammar textbooks, and that they're presented, they have presented, and then the communicative competence will be the independent variable because it's dependent on the grammar textbooks. Okay, so criteria for evaluation of a good research problem. Novel. Yeah, that's ideally it should be novel. Like the novel coronavirus virus. Meaning when you say novel, something that is unique and something that is new. Interesting, of course. That's why, if possible, I want you to really create or find a problem that you are really interested. Okay? Then practical. Of course, it should be practical. innovative if possible. That's focus on innovation or something that could create something new and something that's productive. And then cost effective. Practical and cost effective, I think they're the same. And research problem should be smart. There they are. It's smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Yes, in your research, you're time bounded with only 2 gradings or 1 semester to finish your research. And it should be specific. That's why when you are creating your title, I want you to be specific, like in the previous topic that we have, that when you have an idea or a research topic, um, it should basically be specific. Because if it's broad and it will include a lot of scopes, then it would be difficult for you to find where to focus on. And measurable, of course, it should be measurable. That's why during your title defense, or title hearing, I will ask you, how are you going to measure this? How are you going to measure this variable and this variable and this variable? And attainable, of course, your research problem should be something that can be attained, or can be, I mean, if I may, solvable. Okay, and realistic, of course. Let's not think about, something so ideal problems that we have. Only let's just focus on local, on the data that we have in our hands, in our locality. All right. So the research title, and this research title refers to the final title that you will have. Okay, first one, the title serves as a summary of the main idea or ideas of your research. Okay, by the way, the one that we're talking about earlier, it's all about research problem. Okay, so for your title, always remember that your title serves as a summary of the main idea or ideas of your research, and it aims to capture the reader's attention and draw attention to the research problem investigated. So that's why a research problem and the title, they are so interconnected, because if you have a clear research problem, it will show in your title. Okay, because the title shows as a summary of your research. Alright, the title is the part of your research that people read or see first. Yeah, well, of course, that's it. You have to remember that. And do not start your title with a study to investigate the. And don't make it too short also. Don't make it too long. Don't make it too short. If possible, you can just have like 14 words in your research title. Create a working title is developed in the early stage of the research process. It will keep you anchored in the focus of your study. So focus here, working title. So if it is a working title, this one, if it is a working title, you have to develop it at the end, at the beginning of your research process. That's the title that you will submit to your teacher. And the purpose of it is for you to be anchored, to be guided on what will be the focus of your study. Next, effective titles in academic research papers. It indicates, they indicate accurately the subject and scope of the study. Yes, you have to mention the scope and the subject of the study, your respondents, okay? Avoid using abbreviations. No abbreviations in your title. Okay, then use words that create a positive impression and stimulate reader interest. Okay, so do not use language or words like, there was one time, somebody submitted a title about I forget what it is. Just don't use like judgmental words or judgmental words. Like for example, the academic performance of failed students, or failed students failed students, academic performance in, it's just like very, very judgmental or very stereotypical. So as much as possible, let's do away with that. And just make it in a positive tone. Okay, another is effective titles in academic research papers suggest a relationship between variables which supports the major hypothesis. Okay, another thing also that in quantitative research, you are going to create a hypothesis. Okay, and a hypothesis, it is based on, yeah, there are a lot of factors to consider with creating a hypothesis, because of course at the end, after gathering your research, you really have to connect the data that you've gathered and how you are going to measure them, how you're going to analyze them to the hypothesis that you have created. And your effective titles are limited to 10 to 15 substantive words. Earlier I told you like 12, 14, or 15. Yeah, maximum will be 15 and not beyond that. Okay, then do not include study of, analysis of, or similar constructions. Okay, and then titles are usually in the form of a phrase but can also be in the form of a question. So as much as possible, let's not just use the question form. Maybe for the higher researches they could accept that, but in our level, we just have to focus on what we have used to. Use correct grammar and capitalization with all first words and last words capitalized, including the first word of a subtitle. So in your research, just make sure that the use of grammar, the correct use of grammar and capitalization are employed. Yeah, we are gonna correct that later on. Also, the words, the nouns, the important nouns, pronouns in your title, they should be capitalized. And there is no exclamation mark in your title. There shouldn't be. Okay, so that's it, and thank you so much. So you just have to um, refer to your modules that you will receive for the questions. Okay, so if you have questions regarding making your research title, and just submit your research title to me and we are going to correct them, or I'll just going to ask you questions about that. All right, so thank you so much guys for listening, and I just hope and watching, and I just hope that you'll be successful in your research endeavor. Thank you so much.